Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area School District Board of Education on November the 4th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Here in the Round Lake High School Library. If I can get started first with a roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera?
Here.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
All right, and first up on that is going to be our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we need an approval of the meeting minutes, the approval of the meeting agenda as listed online. If I can get an approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. We have an approved agenda, and first up on that is special recognition and presentations. And we will have this kicked off with the trainee of the month and Mr. Peterson.
Good evening, everybody. Last year we started honoring our trainees of the month, which I thought was an excellent opportunity to highlight some of our students at the Transition Center. And tonight we are kicking this off for this year, and we have 4 students that we'll recognize tonight. We will be recognizing these students for their just great contributions that they've made in their work program that they're currently involved in right now. Some of the qualities that these students have exemplified, right? We're talking about leadership. We're talking about showing up every single day and being committed to the task that they're engaged in, being mentoring other students within the program as well. So tonight, I want to bring up Miss Loretta Weber. She works with these students daily, and she'll be with me tonight and sharing a little bit about these students and their accomplishments in the work program. So the 4 students I'd like to bring up to honor for our trainee of the month tonight, I'd like to bring up Luca Fouts, Abraham Patino. I'd like to bring up LaTroy Coleman. And I got 3 students tonight that we'll be honoring. And then I'm going to have Ms. Weber come up and talk about these 2.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to recognize the hard work and dedication and positive attitude of all 3 young men. All of them, when their commitment to excellence and ability to go above and beyond is recognized. You all have helped the managers and staff with any request and ask of no complaints. The achievement is well-deserved and reflects the kind, hard-working young men you are. Thank you for everything you do. Congratulations. Luca works at Oak Hill. You work at Oak Hill too, and you work at Walgreens in Haynesville. So it was a pleasure to work with all 3 of them. Thank you so much.
Just got to look at a quick agenda change here. Bear with us. All right, as we continue to adjust the calendar just a little bit, we're going to jump and go to the beep. Helps to hold the button. We're going to go to the BPAC update, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Casas, the BPAC president, to come up and have the update. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. On Friday, November 15, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. via Microsoft Teams, we'll have our third BPAC committee meeting. Mr. Rodolfo Ruiz Velasco of College of Lake County will be presenting virtually about the programs and scholarship opportunities for our high school students. Also, our committee continues working to support our students at home and helping parents to get ready for the FAFSA application process that opens on December 1st. Friday, December 13th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at McGee Middle School, BPAC will be hosting a seminar on how to limit technology use at home in both English and Spanish, with presenters Fernay Ramirez in Spanish and Marcela Duran in English. Presenters will talk about how the abuse of technology affects the mental health of our students and their well-being. We choose this topic because as parents we need to learn how to monitor our limit technology use. In February of next year, we'll start our mental health and substance abuse program seminar series in both English and Spanish. We decided to do these important workshops during the winter months because parents share that winter are difficult months to cope with mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, etc. Thank you for your time and support to our BPAC programs. I wish you a joyful Thanksgiving dinner and happy holidays to all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is the Round Lake Exchange Club Youth of the Month Award, and I'm going to turn this one over to Mr. Bruce Johnson, I believe.
I watched, so I know how to do it. Good evening, and thank you very much for allowing us to be here tonight to present our Youth of the Month Award. My name is Bruce Johnson, and I'm here representing the Round Lake Area Exchange Club, and I have many of my fellow Exchange-ites here, including our president, Tony Cerna. When we think about, specifically our youth, and we think about, how they are the greatest resource that we have. The Exchange Club is actually America's oldest service organization, with youth programming being one of our 4 pillars of service. And the Youth of the Month Award is a cornerstone of Round Lake Exchange Club's youth programming. The Youth of the Month Award honors outstanding students who have exhibited excellence in academics, leadership, and service. Students submit an essay on a theme selected by the National Exchange Club, and you'll be hearing from our November honoree as she reads her essay in just a few minutes. This year's theme is especially meaningful, asking our youth, in a world that is constantly changing and ever evolving, our youth play critical roles in shaping the future of their communities. From advocating to leading, young people are taking charge and making a significant impact. So how have you personally contributed to society, and how do you envision your future in community service? On behalf of the Round Lake Area Exchange Club, it's my honor and privilege to present our Youth of the Month Award and gift certificate to a truly impressive and deserving recipient, Jade Cordova.
Good evening, everyone. Today I stand before you not just as a high school student, but as a proud member of today's society who is actively shaping the generation of our communities. I have lived in Round Lake my whole entire life, and I've seen the community as one big family. Whether it's been town events, parades, or going to lakefront with my family just for a simple little picnic, growing up, this town has held all my happy memories. I've always wanted to help build Round Lake as this place means everything to me. More and more, we see people my age start to speak out and take action into bettering their own communities. Whether through service, leadership, advocacy, young people are stepping up, and I'm honored to be sharing my story with you. As many of you know, I have had the incredible opportunity to serve as Junior Miss Round Lake area. This role has opened the doors for me to engage deeply with my community and participate in various events. Earth Day celebrations, Unplugged Illinois, and farmers markets, mayor meetings, Christmas tree lightings, and cancer awareness events too. At each of these gatherings, I volunteered my time connecting and with individuals and hearing their stories, and spreading awareness of my platform, Mental Magic. The idea of this platform is to raise awareness of youth's mental health through journaling. Mental health is an issue that often goes unspoken, yet many of us suffer from it. Through my participation in community events, I have aimed to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health, encouraging others to open a conversation about a topic that is so vital. And I shared statistics, coping strategies, and personal experiences, hoping to make a difference. One of my proudest moments was during Mental Health Awareness Month when I helped sponsor one of the counseling department's Feel Good Fridays. At the library, students can come in during their lunch period, take a break from their day, and focus on their mental health. The journals I provided were filled with stickers, highlighters, washi tapes, and pens, and so much more. All the tools to help encourage students express themselves and reflect their feelings. It was heartwarming to see students excited about journaling, discovering outlet for their emotions and thoughts. As my reign as Junior Miss Round Lake area ended in June of 2024, I continued my pageant journey and proudly won the Missy Looked It pageant. As Missy Looked It, I have focused on being a positive role in my community. I've participated in a ribbon cutting ceremony at the new performance patio at the Civic Center, which I'm pretty sure I saw most of you at, which was really fun to see. And I also recently helped and volunteered at the Day of the Dead celebration at the Civic Center, where I was also interviewed by a local newspaper. My goal is to inspire other young Latina women to embrace their potential and make a positive impact. In addition to my pageant involvement, I have also served as a Panther Crew leader, helping guide incoming freshmen through their transition to high school. Through Panther Crew, I've also served as a new student liaison, where I've welcomed transfer students to Round Lake Area High School. I've given them tours, shown them to the classes on their first few days. Because I'm also fluent in Spanish, I have also welcomed newcomers to our country who are facing a more difficult challenge, not only to a new school, but to a new language and culture as well. I really enjoyed connecting with these students and helping them navigate the significant life change. With this, I was able to hopefully make them feel more welcomed into a new environment and comfortable to speak with me at any time they needed anything. I loved bringing their first view into the student body and making them feel safe. Looking ahead, I envision my future in community service through my education. I plan on studying sociology and journalism in college. Hopefully these fields will equip me with the tools to help speak out about the challenges we face as a community and expand my platform of mental health. I believe that furthering my education and getting into journalism will allow me to make a lasting impact and have my voice heard. Pageantry will remain a part of my journey, allowing opportunities to encourage my community and connecting and advocating for important causes. I am excited about the future and hope potential we all have to contribute positively to our neighborhoods. In conclusion, I encourage each one of you to think about how you can make a difference in our community, whether volunteering, starting conversations, or simply being there for someone in need. Together, we can create a brighter future, one filled with understanding, support, and love. Thank you.
All right, next up is the Dojo Elementary Teacher Parent Communication Tool. I think it's going to Ms. LeBlanc and Mr. Porton.
Hello. Today we are presenting on Class Dojo. I'm Sarah LeBlanc. I'm the Communications Coordinator. This is Indian Hill Principal Ray Porton. He is the Dojo expert. For those of you who may not know, Dojo is a communications tool that we use for our early education center and elementary schools. It's a way for parents to communicate with teachers. Some teachers assign points. It's a really reliable tool that we've been using for a few years now. So the point of this presentation is just to kind of let you know how we use it as a district, how we operate with it, and what our outcomes have been, and how we plan to improve its success in the future. So that's just our little overview. And now we're just going to show you like a 90-second video that just is a little bit more of a visual component to Dojo, because we can't really pull it up and show you guys what it looks like here. So it'll just give you kind of an idea of what it actually looks like on the teacher side.
Together. First up, story. Have an upcoming assembly or fundraiser? Create an event. As it gets closer, families will get reminders. Next up, announcements. Let's say it's a snow day. With Class Dojo, you can send important one-way messages to your entire school community. There's also messaging. Teachers and staff can message with families one-on-one or group chats. It's just like texting without giving out your phone number, and translations are built in. Plus, you can set quiet hours to protect your work-life balance. Finally, points. With Class Dojo, teachers can give out points to encourage students in the classroom. Soon as a school leader, you'll be able to see all points across the entire school in one place. You'll also be able to set school-wide values in line with PBIS or other programs, and see which students are excelling and which classes are earning the most points. And soon, any staff member will be able to give points to any student in the school, perfect for the lunchroom or hallways. Whether it's connecting families to kids' school days or giving you a window into every classroom, we can't wait to partner with you. Welcome to Class Dojo, 100% free for schools forever.
So as you see, Class Dojo is a tool that we use. All of the elementary schools, including the EEC, do use Class Dojo to communicate with parents. It is a great tool that we use to either communicate, to send out events or reminders, and also some of the schools and classrooms use it for positive points to encourage behavior.
So this is probably what we use Dojo for the most, and that's to communicate with parents. So the way that we get parents set up on Dojo, first we get their students set up. So teachers will use their class list that they get before the school year starts, and they'll add all of their students manually. Unfortunately, Dojo does not have a rostering process, so we can't roster it through Infinite Campus, so everything is done manually. And then this is where schools kind of differ, and we will be creating a standard process for this. Some schools, like Indian Hill, have some assistance with their office staff on getting parents on before the school year. Others, like that image on the right, might print out a unique code for each family and give that at either a Meet the Teacher event or an open house to kind of make sure that they are like physically handing parents a code to sign up. Oftentimes, though, it is an email, so they'll get a parent's email through Infinite Campus, and they'll have a parent join that way. So we're looking to, in the next few months, make this a standardized process so it's a little more consistent. And then we have turned off a feature that would allow parents to message each other. We're not using Dojo as like a chat. This is specifically for parents to communicate with teachers and for teachers to communicate with parents.
So some of the tools that we use with Dojo is Dojo Points, which allows us to encourage positive behavior in the school and give students points for their behavior. We use class stories, which is a great way for parents to see what's going on in classrooms. We can post messages of things going on. We can post pictures or videos of students and the work they're doing. Students can post pictures and send them to their parents. So a lot of times the students will take a picture of their work, send it to their parents, and explain what they did as a way to show parents what's going on in the classroom. And then we can also use school stories, which is very similar to what you would see like on a Facebook page, the main story, only it's limited to just the students in our school and just the parents in our school. So it allows parents to see what's going on in the school, and it gives us a great chance to give reminders, events, and announcements out to parents easily. Also, as we said, events, so we can set events, and it's really nice because it'll send out reminders to parents, and you can tell it to send out a reminder a week before, the day before, an hour before, and it reminds parents of when the events are, and then it's just a great way to communicate. We have parents that will tell us, like, it's hard for me to answer the phone at work, but if you dojo me, I'll respond right away, and dojo is a great tool that allows us to do that.
So over 95% of our parents are connected right now at all of our elementary schools, including the EEC. It's kind of hard to figure it out because there's not like a insights page that just has like percentages everywhere. So you kind of have to go class by class and see who's not involved. But it's like, I think maybe 13 is the most parents at any school that we don't have connected. So it's honestly probably more than 95%. And most elementary schools have been using Dojo for at least 5 years. I know Indian Hill has been using it for 10, I guess. So it's been pretty reliable. I have some testimonials on there for what some teachers think. I know Sarah Lind at the EEC has called it kind of their lifeline. That's the best way that they can reach parents. So we love Dojo. We know that the way we're using it is not perfect. So we're going to be improving that. And also just to clarify, when we say 95% of parents, only one parent has to be connected to each child. So there can be more, but when we're counting that number, it's at least one parent is connected to a child. And that's kind of the gist of it. Are there any questions based on this presentation?
I loved it when my kids used it, and they're in college now. So I'm sitting there going, yep, it's been 10 years, yep.
So I did have a couple of questions, but first I wanted to say thank you for bringing this forward. I know I had asked for this to be a board agenda item after going through all the open houses and parents asking questions or my neighbors or whoever, and then seeing some inconsistencies. So you mentioned about becoming a standardized process. Could you maybe go into more detail of that for the board?
So we're going to look at how we are rostering students in the school, how we are rostering students in classrooms, how we're connecting parents, making sure that we're standard with that. We're going to make sure that we have a process that every school building is doing, so that way if your student goes to Murphy and your student goes to, you have another student at Village, it's the same process and you'll have that consistent between the buildings. We talked about at the end of the school year, we're going to clear out all students and start from scratch to make sure that we don't have students that are hanging on from previous years in buildings. And we're also going to make sure we standardize the points between the buildings, at least at the grade level bands, to make sure that if you're getting points at Village, you're getting the same type of points at Indian Hill. Again, looking for consistency and standardization across the district.
Thank you. So no, this is good. I appreciate it. I think having the standardized process across the district will help families and staff as well. So I look forward to that being implemented. And then can we make sure we archive that video where she said it's free forever, because I'm going to hold them to that. No, thank you for bringing this.
Any additional questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got a high school recap of Q1 interventions, referrals, initiatives, and data, and that's going to be the whole high school team, so I will turn it over.
Good evening. On behalf of the Student Services team here at the high school, we want to thank you for the opportunity to present here this evening. We are really excited about the direction that this department is going, and we're excited to share the positive things that are happening. Tonight we're going to present on our attendance initiatives and interventions we've implemented so far this year. We also want to discuss our new cell phone policy and how it's impacted staff and students in the building. And finally, we want to share some of our behavior trends that we've seen this year. We're going to start with attendance, so I'm going to hand the microphone off to our new attendance team, Ms. Kara Sanchez.
And just a reminder to the board, this is a position that we added at the request of the high school, and you asked for an update, which is fantastic. So I'm glad they're here sharing.
Thank you for doing the hard work for me, Mr. Mendoza, because I was going to mention that thank you very much for adding this position. I'm sure that my fellow deans can also agree with me that being able to focus strictly on attendance takes a lot of things off their plate. So thank you. So yes, my name is Kara Sanchez. I am the Dean of Attendance this year. I've been in the building since 2014. I served priorly as a high school Spanish teacher, and yeah, now I'm working with attendance. So is this what we used to click? Okay. So we're going to look back a few years at where our average daily attendance was at for the first 2 months of school. For 2 years ago, we were sitting at around 87.1% per day of the students that were in the building. And as you can see, we are slowly climbing up in the right direction. This year, when we pulled the data, we were sitting at 91.1%. So again, this is good. This is good news, and we're very excited about the work that we're doing to get our students into this place and get them into the building. Same with chronic absenteeism numbers. This is a number that we want to go down, and this is a number that indicates that students are missing a substantial part of the school year. 2 years ago, same time frame, we were sitting at 43%, and if you look, the numbers are trending downwards, and as of right now, we're looking at around 30%. So again,
And board, just as another reminder, chronic absenteeism is 10% of the number of days in the school year. So at the end of the year, so 170 days, any student that has 17 absences is considered chronically absent. So the key on this metric will be that we have to stay on top of it because the numbers can fluctuate. You could have a student, but it works both ways. You could have a student who's chronically absent as of today that doesn't miss any more school and then moves into the other category, but the reverse is also true. So I don't know how many days we've had of school, but through October 28th, that's the data. I just wanted to give you the 10% number so you had a point of reference.
I think we've had about 52. But yes, I agree with that it does fluctuate quite easily. So it can make my job very easy as long as I stay on top of it. So it's been good. So this is what I do on a daily basis because, to be honest, I wasn't sure where to start. And Mr. Peterson was kind enough to connect me with some people that he used to work with that were in this role, and I picked their brains. And I just wanted to share with you, because this is a new role, exactly what I do on a daily basis. So I am pulling reports from Infinite Campus, and I'm finding out which students are in the building but cutting class. And those are the students that I specifically target or try to work with, as well as students who are chronically tardy. Then the students who are just not in the building in general, obviously that's going to go to truancy. Additionally, I am working with students on different types of interventions. It really varies, and it is a very holistic and personalized approach. It depends on the student. But I do dean conferences, reflection sheets, check-in, check-outs. We do bring parents in for meetings, calling parents, communicating with them. Believe it or not, a lot of parents, although they get the automated messages, when I get them on the phone, it's a shock to them because they, for whatever reason, thought that those were not real. So I think having someone to have those conversations with them has been really helpful. We also work with, as a team, we really work together. So I work with other deans, counselors, social workers. I do work with Ivy, who is our truancy officer. And we do work with the alternative learning team to determine what the next steps are for students who are failing to comply with attendance expectations. We also are working on different types of initiatives and upcoming policies. We're updating policies that were not supporting student timeliness in the past. And of course, we want to celebrate students who are reaching our attendance goals. And of course, we're doing a lot of branding. So trying to get the word out that this is something that we're valuing, and it's something that's very important to us. So far to the start of the semester, I've worked with around 450 students. And with those 450 students, they've all been placed on some type of intervention. There's been over 522 attendance-focused interventions, and around 50 students right now are currently on more intensive interventions, meaning that I've gone through multiple different layers of interventions this year. And those students who are on the more intensive route, 50% of them are showing improvement. So it takes time and it takes effort, but we are chipping away and we do see the results. What's to come? We did receive some numbers of the freshmen off track, meaning that they are failing one or more classes for the first part of the semester. And I went through that data and determined which students were also attendance concerns. So moving forward through the rest of the semester, I really want to meet with those freshmen and try to address maybe the reason that they're failing some classes is because they're not here enough. So if you look, we also pulled up some freshman off-track data, and you can kind of see that we are also making strides in that effort as well. So while it's not always 100% correlated, we do think that there is a connection between attendance and how much students are succeeding in the building.
Good evening, everyone. Jesus Murillo, Dean of Students over at the high school. I first off want to appreciate giving us the opportunity to present on some of the things that we've been doing here at the high school. The cell phone policy is something that's pretty new to us this year. In the past, we've had a cell phone policy, albeit pretty ineffective and not well structured. In response to a lot of the staff requests and just behavior that we've noticed in the high school, we felt it was very necessary to create a new cell phone policy. We do want to highlight that this cell phone policy wasn't just something handed down from administration to teachers and students. This was something that was a collaborative effort involving various stakeholders, including teachers, department chairs, administration, and deans. So here's a few testimonials from current students here in our building.
How has our new cell phone policy affected you in the classroom?
The new cell phone policy, I feel like for me, it affected me by paying more attention than just going on my phone. Because when I was distracted, I was using my phone and all that. But now since there's like consequences to it, I'd rather just give the phone to them and do my work and it helped me get my grade.
Thank you.
It's affected me in a good way because I don't have to spend like time on my phone. I can spend time on my work, and I can really listen into what the teacher is saying, and I won't be distracted by it. And like before, without the rule, I would just be like, oh, I can just go on my phone anytime I want to. But now because like obviously you can't, I think it's better because it just helps you. It helps people in the classroom.
Thank you.
Well, I liked it because compared to my last 3 years, my grades are way better. Just last year, I had, by the end of it, 2 Fs, and what was it? I had no A's throughout that entire year. Right now, my first semester, 2 A's, the rest of them B's, I think 1 C, doing pretty well.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren.
At first, the policy seems annoying and I wanted to use my phone and it was hard to stay focused. But then my peers and I realized that it was a good tool to stay focused in class, to learn more, to be open to new ideas, and interact more with my teachers. Although it may be not as fun to check your phone every 5 minutes, I think it's going to benefit us in the long run.
Thank you.
Looking a little bit more at the quantitative data, I'm going to break down the cell phone policy a little bit, not go too meticulously into the details, but essentially students are expected to have their cell phones and other technologies out of sight. If a student is seen with that cell phone out, they are given a reminder by the staff member. If they have to be given a second reminder at that point, it is a violation of our cell phone and headphones policy, to which point the teacher or staff member may request that student to turn it in, and then they put it in the lockbox, stays there till the end of the period. They then later submit a referral, and then we deans handle that later. So this first data point, the number of minor technology violations, this would be a student received a warning and then broke the policy again and then complied by putting the technology in the lockbox. Through the end of Q1, we had 179 total violations, which comes out to about 4.5 violations per day. If we look at a building of 2,200 students, I think if we have under 5 students in the whole building, breaking the policy, I think we're heading in the right direction, and I expect that number to actually go down per quarter. The second one there, the refusals, this is a little bit more serious. This is what we'd call insubordination here in student services. It is the student was told to put the cell phone or technology in the lockbox. At that point, the student refused to comply, to which point staff members are instructed to notify security. Security comes to the classroom. They escort the student with their belongings to the dean's office, and then once they're in the dean's office, we have the conversation with the student, primarily de-escalating the situation, number one, just helping them comply with what the expectation is. And we've had 37 of those up to the end of Q1, which is a little bit less than once per day. One thing I do want to point out about those 37 is not a single one of those are repeat offenders. So once they've gotten to the point of coming up to the dean, they have not come back. And then the last one, to end a little bit more positively, this is the percent of students in our building through Q1 that have had 0 technology violations, 0 referrals. And that number is sitting at 93.3%. And to me, that just paints a picture of if we continue to raise the bar for the students, staff, and all of us as a whole, I think that we can actually achieve those goals and then just keep getting better.
Good evening. My name is Jay Iden. I'm a Dean of Students. I'm going to highlight the number of physical altercations that we have had this year. Going back to 21-22 and up to last year, it peaked at 17 students. Those are not 17 fights, but how many students were involved. This year, we have had 3 incidents with 6 total students. We're really proud of that. Because those are major disruptions to the learning environment. It also plants a seed of, we just want it to be a place where students feel safe to learn and staff members are safe to do their jobs. We attributed this to a multi-pronged approach where we have been extremely proactive, including our increased presence in the hallways, but also through our restorative efforts where we have met with students, groups of them. We spent a tremendous amount of time on that, getting ahead of it, helping them with conflict resolution skills, as well as other restorative efforts such as restorative conversations. Most importantly, to tie this all together, physical altercations, any acts of aggression are a form of messaging. And we have taken the stance of a more powerful and louder message that you come here to learn. Furthermore, I really have to attribute it to the cell phones. It takes a lot of effort to actually get a fight to come to fruition. And they're trying to send a message. With us eliminating cell phones in the classroom, simply put, that the schools, the hallways are not a conduit for whatever trash they're talking. And you can see it in the data right there. So we're very proud that the students know that they come here to learn and the staff can come to a safe place to work.
My name is Ben Williams, Dean of Students. I'll be talking about everybody's favorite topic, dress code violations. When I got to Round Lake 4 or 5 years ago, there was no dress code, mostly because we were remote. But when I did come back to the building, I was kind of disappointed to see some of the way our students were dressing on a daily basis, and that goes from inappropriate hats to scantily clad clothes. 2023, looking back at the data, we kind of implemented a dress code policy, which in my estimation didn't go as well as we initially thought. We kind of fell off the wagon there. We didn't have a lot of buy-in from teachers. Last year, kind of the same thing. This year in the building, there's a completely different mindset. We're attacking students with the dress code on a daily basis. The deans meet in every location where students come into the building, and we check to make sure that students are in compliance at all times. We're also in constant communication with teachers throughout the day, so if they come in and decide they're going to peel back clothing or put something inappropriate on, all a teacher has to do is email us and we show up and dress code them. It keeps the teachers confident that we are holding true to our dress code policy. And again, with dress code, I think it comes back to the things that we're trying to do. It ties in with cell phones, it ties in with attendance. We are trying to set a new culture here at the school, and I think we're doing a good job about it. Principal Peterson asks us every day, are we proud of what we do in this building? And I can honestly say that I'm proud of the work that Ms. Sanchez is doing, hardest work in the building when it comes to her attendance. Mr. Iden, Mr. Zamudi, and myself focusing on keeping our students safe, keeping our students off their phones and learning and in the classroom has been a huge success this year so far.
That concludes our presentation. I want to thank you guys for your time once again. Thank you.
Glenn, we might have questions. I don't have a question. I do have one. Frank, how many class cuts in a day equals an absence? Like a full day absence. Student cuts X number of periods. Is that 5? Is it 4? Is it 6? What's the number?
Yeah, 5.
So that's relevant because we could have kids who are here 3 periods but are considered fully absent if they're cutting too much. So I love how you guys are staying on top of it. I just want to make a comment too. I think I was sitting in a meeting with Mr. Peterson 3 weeks ago, maybe. It was in the back of the library. I think it was a student leadership group. And it's very, very clear that the kids have bought in to the raised expectations, academically, behaviorally, with the cell phones. And I've been here since 13, and our kids, when we raise the bar and we have buy-in with the staff, I can't remember a time they didn't rise to the expectations we set. So this idea that our kids won't kind of do the things we're asking them to do is just not a thing. And so if we set up the structures, we stay consistent, we implement, we hold them accountable. So I love the fact that you guys are, I mean, the dress code violations have like quadrupled, but I like that because that number will level out because our kids will adjust to what your expectations are. So I just want to credit the team for reestablishing kind of the culture that we expect just dispositionally, academically of our kids, and they always rise to the occasion. So I'm very, very happy with kind of what you've presented.
All right, I have a few questions. First, thank you for adding the data for the freshmen off track, because I had asked for that, so thank you for including that. I'll go with the attendance position, because you mentioned kind of what your day looks like. You talk about how, you pull the attendance report and look at those that are cutting classes or are tardy, but I'm sure it goes without saying, but you're pulling that data for those students who are actually missing. And what do those interventions look like for those students who are actually not coming to class or coming to school?
So that would be with our truancy person, Miss Ivy Rodriguez. So she is the person that's in charge of the students who just do not come into the building at all. And so she makes contact home. She makes home visits, sometimes with Officer Furlan. So those types of conversations tend to be a lot more delicate because there's definitely a mental health reason as to why a student is not coming into the building at all. So she is providing families with those types of resources. And at some certain point as well, she does have to get Roe involved. So it just kind of depends on the situation. I can't speak completely on what she does on a daily basis because, our positions are a little bit different, but there is some overlap, and I would say that we definitely collaborate and work together.
Let me rephrase the question. So when you're pulling those, but is there a point where you're watching where a student is missing that maybe you reach out before it's an actual truancy or has to go to that person?
Yeah, I would say at the beginning of the year, for the first 3 or 4 weeks, we were kind of stepping on each other's toes in the sense because yes, before it turns into a full, complete truancy issue, we are calling home, reaching out, trying to find out where the student is. I would say a few of those issues do resolve on their own because there are a large amount of families that aren't always here at the beginning of the school year. But the other ones, it's been a pattern. So it's not like randomly they're a junior or senior and they decide one day they don't want to come to school. Typically, there's some history to that. And so she's privy to those students because she's been working with them for the past couple of years.
All right.
Are you talking about students who are in the building and then it becomes a truancy issue down the road where they start coming here and then stop coming to school? Basically, it's like a growing concern. Is that what you're?
I mean, that's part of it, yes.
So here's the one thing that I think that Kara didn't mention that I think is really important to what she does all day. Kara is not in her office frequently. She literally has a cart that she goes door to door hunting kids down in the building to get in front of them to talk about how they can improve their attendance and how important and essential that is to them. So it's like when you talk about being proactive, like she is going and finding them. Like if they're in the building, and she's finding them throughout the day. So it's not like she's waiting for them, sending out passes, hoping and praying that they come to class or come to her office. She is physically on a cart, rolling her way down to their classroom with her computer, has a system that we worked with the tech department to get a report that shows where those kids are at, what periods they missed. We can do it on sliding scales because if someone missed all periods of the day versus if they missed 3 periods out of the day, it typically shows that they're in the building but just not going to class. Those are the students that she's targeting. Who's here? How do we get in front of them? And how do we give them the interventions they need to be successful and be in the classroom?
All right, thank you, that helps. Do those conversations also translate over to the parents? I mean, I know you're getting in front of the students, but how are we also getting that to the parents?
All encompassing. So we're talking with students, we're talking about parents, we're talking with staff members, we're talking as groups here. So it's all hands on deck. Like that's the only way, in my opinion, and the experiences I've had in student services, the only way you get ahead of attendance is if everybody's all on board. If it's just the dean's problem, we don't make changes. If it's just the parent's problem, we don't make changes. But when we work together collectively with the same goals in mind and endpoint, that's how we implement change.
Thank you.
I had a quick question. Because I know you touched on the chronic absenteeism versus the truancy. The numbers are looking great. I think you guys are doing an awesome job, like all of you with all the different things that you guys are doing. It's great. And I know we have a different kind of path for the truancy. We have extra people working that. With our numbers, like the 30%, is that the absenteeism like within the school day here, or does that also include our kids who are school phobic and not coming in at all?
Yeah, that includes all. Yeah.
Is there a way at some point to like kind of tease that out? Because I think that would like make an even clearer picture of being able to see how big of an impact you guys are making versus, because I know how hard it is with some of the other.
So are you talking about like filtering out like the students that aren't even coming to school versus students that are in here but missing maybe 3 periods a day?
Right, like the ones that are specifically truant, like not coming at all versus
School refusals. I'm not coming to school no matter what. They're enrolled. They'll show up for
I
a day.
understand. Yeah,
You can
certainly.
probably
We
break
can
that
certainly-
out.
Yep, certainly.
I have one more question then. I'm going to go to dress code violations. So it was mentioned about the school district policy, which we've always had a school district policy for dress code. So I see the huge jump from 23-24 of 44 to August to the current October of 216. What has really prompted that huge jump?
So starting in January of this year, the deans started to come in early. They come in at 7:15, and they are posted up at each entrance, student entrance as they come in.
Frank, it's enforcement, basically, right?
Yeah, that's what I was getting.
The adults are enforcing the
So
rules.
basically, we have the resources now to enforce it right away at the beginning of school, and we also had staff buy-in with contacting us, our team, like, hey, this student's out of dress code, can you please address it? That has increased as well. So it really, yes, it boils down to enforcement of the policy. And this is something that the staff have asked for.
I would say, I remember my first year, we tried to enforce IDs. And I mean, it's a good idea, but if you don't have the staff on board, and I can't tell you how many times I'd walk down the hall, and I'm not blaming anybody, but I think with dress code, part of the issue is some of our staff don't want to get into a confrontation with a student over that. And so they would just rather kind of let it go, and maybe the next teacher will say, well, that's not happening now, and they have structures set up so that our teachers don't have to get into the confrontation with the student. They can report it discreetly, and as they said, they go to the room and find the student is very clearly evident. But the IDs is the same thing. You know, we'd be standing out there, we'd have 6 of us trying to have kids put their IDs on, and then you look down the hall and students are walking past teacher after teacher after teacher, they're not saying anything. You can't change behavior unless everybody's on board. So I don't think necessarily our kids are dressing differently maybe than at the beginning of the last year, but I think the enforcement has gone way, way, way up.
So what is a dress code violation? So what are you seeing? What is?
So typically, we see students that are exposing certain areas of their body. It could be anything from shoulder that has no straps. We see students with midriff. Could be students wearing certain brands that aren't school appropriate. We've seen an influx in Cookies brand. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cookies. It's a THC brand. We've seen stuff with JGL. References Mexican drug cartels, things of that nature. The majority of the dress code does come with kind of overexposure of skin that just doesn't comply with what the dress code is.
So branding and overexposure is the majority of what you're seeing.
I would say so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question with the dress code. Is it male and female treated equally as far as shoulder and midriff?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, we do not discriminate.
I also wanted to touch on the cell phone policy. I find these numbers really impressive. And I know there's a learning curve. We're only 3 months in, and I think these numbers are great. I know my son is not a fan of the policy, but he doesn't respond. I'll test him, and he doesn't respond to me. So it's working. So kudos to you on the enforcement, and also kudos to the kids for being willing to put their phones away because it's such an issue.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're really proud of our students. It kind of goes to Dr. Mendoza's point, is like we raise the bar and they rise to it. It's same with the IDs from last year. Every student had to have their ID. We made that expectation, and it took them a day to figure it out, and they complied. This same thing, really quickly, they complied. They knew it was coming. We told them at the end of last year, hey, we have a new cell phone policy coming. We over-communicated with the staff and parents and the students. Yeah, we're really proud of them and the staff.
Additional questions for the team?
No question. It was a good presentation. Thank you for the good data. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next up is Panther Philosophy and Mr. Karolzak.
Boy, oh boy, tough act to follow there. I'll do my best. So, we basically, this presentation is coming from a realization that starting my third year here, and I've given you seasonal updates as to what's occurring in the athletic department, but haven't really given you a comprehensive look at the infrastructure that we're building and for lack of a better word, the 10-year plan, the big picture, the not only what we're doing, but the why behind it. And so that's what I want to do this evening. So, excuse me. Should have left my water down here. I'm going to just grab it real quick. All right, here we go. Last summer, Dr. Mendoza led a administrative team meeting for the district where he talked about our new strategic plan, the portrait of graduate, and an increased focus on not just branding and spreading awareness of the district's mission statement, but also making sure that everything we're doing ties to it. And that was awesome and very liberating for me because I had been sort of for close to a year sort of soft rolling out what we're calling the MVP process or the MVP framework in the athletic department. And that meeting last June sort of gave me a mandate to accelerate that process. And so essentially MVP is an acronym for mission, vision, and principles. Or core values would be another way to say that, but then it wouldn't be MVP. So our mission, why are we here in the athletic department? Our vision, what are we going to accomplish? How are we going to do our why, right? Our why and our what or how. And then the principles or core values are the values that are going to allow us to achieve and drive the mission and vision, excuse me. And this is the part that I think is really, really key, and I'll refer to it more later in the presentation. But when we talk about our core values or our principles, it's not just these words like perseverance or respect or integrity, but actually defining them. This is what we mean when we say perseverance in Round Lake athletics. This is what we mean when we say respect or integrity or effort, right? A definition of it paired with above the line behaviors and below the line behaviors. If we say perseverance is always showing grit in the face of adversity no matter what, we then have to have a list of behaviors that doing this is showing that perseverance. That's above the line. Doing this is not. That's below the line. I know you already had an opportunity to look at this presentation. There is a link there to a sample MVP process. It's pretty in-depth, so I'm not going to go to it now, but just know that that is there. It's actually the MVP process that was created at Libertyville High School and the one that they operate by. But that's sort of where we're heading right now, okay? The work, I've created a committee, myself, a number of head coaches, assistant coaches, specific members of my student athlete leadership team, but also the entire leadership team have had input into this, and then several members of our school staff who may or may not be coaches, but have a vested interest in the success of this. So the work of this MVP committee is ongoing. The first three that are highlighted, actually the first two that are highlighted, that work has been done. And I'm happy to report that the core values we settled on are the ones that make up our Panther Pride acronym. They're the ones we already had in place. Our coaches and athletes who were surveyed and who I met with and talked about this with felt that perseverance, respect, integrity, discipline, and effort, those define, those are good. That's who we want to be. That's what we want to hang our hat on, right? We want to use those values to drive the creation of our mission and vision. We're currently in the process of defining what those core values look like here at Round Lake and in the Round Lake Athletic Department. I'll have a meeting with my student athlete leadership team next week where that will be the focus of that meeting. And then from there, generating the definitions of, generating the above the line, below the line behaviors. And then from there, that's when we develop the mission and vision statement, and obviously ensure that it's aligned with the district mission statement. Excuse me. I want to take a moment and just highlight that a lot of this work is driven by the work of a gentleman by the name of Brian Kane. Brian Kane is one of the foremost recognized mental performance coach experts on the planet. He's worked with, well, over 1,000 of his clients have been drafted into one of the major professional sports leagues here in the U.S. He has worked with Olympic champions, national champions, Super Bowl champions, World Series champions, Cy Young Award winners, 10 UFC mixed martial arts champions in various weight classes and divisions and so on and so forth. He is the guy, and his curriculum is driving a lot of the work that we're doing. And so basically our belief is that the performance pathway, is leadership is going to determine your culture. And when we talk about leadership, that's not just me, that's our coaches, that's our student athlete leaders. That's ideally that's everybody in the athletic department and anyone who's a stakeholder in the athletic department. But leadership drives the culture. Culture is going to determine behaviors, and behaviors drive results, right? In order to be a champion, you have to act like a champion. The whole Bill Walsh quote, turning around one of the worst NFL franchises back in the 70s and 80s with the San Francisco 49ers. He said, we acted like champions before we became champions. So that's our performance pathway. Our goal setting formula is there in the middle. So we identify the goal or the intention, define what it looks like, describe it, assess it, and then create growth plans from there. And then continually repeating that process so that we can go from where we currently are, whether we're talking about an individual student athlete, whether we're talking about a team, we're talking about the entire athletic department, the coaching staff, what have you. That's how we close the gap from where we are to where we want to be, right? Along with that, and this is key, is identifying and preventing culture killers or BCDs, people that are looking to blame others, not take ownership, people that want to complain rather than be solution oriented, people that want to deflect responsibility when we make a mistake, when we screw up, when we fall short. A big part of success is failure, and then recognizing it, figuring out why, owning it, growing from it, moving forward. And that's just one of the skills that we're trying to inculcate in our student athletes through our athletic department, through our program. A belief in we over me. My student athlete leadership team, actually, I love this. They picked that saying for their shirts this year. They get a shirt I try and bribe them with swag because I ask more of them than the rest of our student athletes. And this is a big one. We could call it CTC, or control the controllables. In order to be present, in order to be focused, in order to be successful in anything, not just athletics. And that's a big part of this here. We're giving them skills and we're giving them opportunities to practice habits of excellence for well after they leave these halls, for the rest of their lives. And in order to do that and be successful, whether it's in high school athletics or in a family or at your job, you've got to focus on the stuff that you actually have control over, and remember the rest of it's white noise, right? Because we don't always have control of the things that happen to us or that happen around us, but we absolutely 100% have control over how we choose to respond to those things. So that's one of the big lessons that we have been trying to teach our athletes since I've come here. Something new this year that I wanted you to be aware of, and again, this has come from not only Excuse me, one sec. Not only Brian Kane or other mental performance coaches like him, but also going around to other athletic departments that do this well, and finding, what's the word I'm looking for? That little extra something to close the gap between where we currently are and where we want to be. And in evaluating the depth and the breadth of our athletic programs in the first 2 years that I've been here, one of the things that everyone universally agrees, and you've probably all heard some version of this saying, but everyone agrees that the mental aspect of competition, the mental aspect of sports is, people say, I've never heard anyone say less than 50%. Oh, the mental part of it is it's 90% of the game, right? We always talk about how important that is. But we very rarely intentionally train it. And so we spent actually, and again, and I'm going to credit Libertyville High School, I worked pretty extensively with their athletic department last March and April. I went and visited one of their mental performance training sessions. They do it weekly on Friday mornings. And met several times with Mr. Peterson, and we talked about the pros and cons of the way that Libertyville does it and how it would look better here. And what we came up with and what we've been doing, Wednesday will be our 12th session this year, is what we're calling Panther Peak Performance. For our in-season athletes and our in-season coaches, it's mandatory. And we start off the week with it, unless it's a goofy week like this one, and then it'll be on Wednesday. And we take 20 minutes at the beginning of the week, and we focus on mental performance. It's broken up into 10 different skill sets. You can see them there. We spend about 3 weeks on each skill set. We are currently wrapping up self-control and discipline, and we'll be moving into process over outcome. And I've been really happy with the response from the coaches and the response from the student athletes. The coaches, I initially worried that they might see this as, oh, it's another thing that Carol Zach's asking us to do. He's cutting into our practice time. They really have embraced it as, this is great. The first 20 minutes of my week is planned. I know that we're hitting on the mental performance side of things. It's intentionally scheduled in there, and they've really embraced it. And a lot of coaches are reporting back to me that they use that lesson as a touchstone for the entire week, which was kind of the intention. I've been hearing kids, I was jealous of the student services team with their student testimonials, because I actually had some today. We had a Positive Coaching Alliance workshop on competing with empathy for some of my student athlete leadership members. They came in on an e-learning day. I don't want to say a day off, because it's not, but that's how they view it, I think. And we had 12 of them come in. One, she lost her ride last minute. She rode her bike here in the rain so that she could be a part of the workshop. And they were talking about how valuable they've found the peak mental performance training that we've been doing. And I remember thinking, I should have videotaped that. But next time. So the focus here is we're developing these skills. People talk about mental toughness. It's not something you're born with, right? It's a learned skill. It's an acquired skill. We have to be intentional about teaching it. So we talk about the skill. We give them drills to practice that help develop it. And then my coaches give them opportunities to practice that in their practices, in their competitions. And then the hope is that the students will start to acquire a skill set, which is going to raise the level of their mental performance, going to, again, allow them to be more resilient, grittier in the face of adversity, perseverance, back to those core values that we're talking about, just trying to give them more tools in their toolbox. We do those sorts of things because it's going to help them win. And what do I mean when I say win? Well, Our MVP process is going to align with and support the district mission statement, inspiring, empowering students to construct a thriving future, right? To me, you add through high school athletics at the end of that sentence, and you've got our athletic department mission statement, right? Now, I'm not going to do it on my own. We're going to continue to do our MVP committee work, but it's going to end up being something along those lines because that's a phenomenal mission, right? Now, so success to me is extending that to as many of our kids as possible through participation in our athletic program, our athletic, whatever that looks like, as a manager, as an athlete, as a multi-sport athlete. And this isn't just, oh, everybody gets to belong and no expectations, no accountability. Couldn't be further from the truth, right? We're, in fact, as I mentioned today, my student athlete leadership team, they were asked to come in on a day that their peers didn't have school. Not every single one of them did, but a lot did, without complaint. They were excited to be here. So that's part of it. We're giving them the opportunity to be held to a higher standard, to meet that standard. And it's because high school athletics it's an extension of the classroom. And they're going to learn those habits of excellence. They're going to learn those skills. It's going to benefit them for the rest of their lives. And this holistic approach to student growth, it goes beyond just physical skill development, right? We are trying to get them as close as possible to the best version of themselves through high school athletics so that when they leave here, they're better prepared to pursue their passions. They're better prepared to be a contributing member of society, to be a leader, to be a valued teammate in their field, in their career, in their passion, to be a better spouse, a better parent someday, a better citizen. That's our goal. Excuse me. So I'm not going to read the slides to you, but I thought it would be valuable to talk about some of the data out there that shows how participation in high school athletics, and particularly a program like ours that is very intentional about developing habits of excellence, developing these core values in our student athletes, it's going to help them be more likely to be engaged in work and to be viewed as a leader. It's going to open up employment opportunities for them. You're 70% more likely as a former high school athlete to be involved in civic duties, to be a philanthropist, to be a servant leader like the members of our Board of Education. You're more likely to have a safe place to feel connected at school, right? Where all of the important things in the Portrait of a Graduate and our new strategic plan, we're doing those things through our athletic program. You're also significantly more likely to have a higher GPA and significantly less likely to drop out of school. 40% less likely to drop out than somebody who is not involved in athletics. Those are national trends. Those aren't specific here. I am in the process of having reports written where we can get that data and disaggregate it by our various demographic groups. But just know student athletes nationally significantly less likely to have poor mental health, poor physical health, and poor academic performance. So through the athletic program, we are connecting to, we're inspiring, we're empowering, we're engaging, we're thriving. These things are happening for our kids through participation in the high school athletic program. You know, we're meeting the unique needs of our learners. We're building community partnerships. We are doing the work of the strategic plan and Portrait of a Graduate in the athletic department. So some of the things that we're doing, I mentioned our student athlete leadership team, our Panther Pride initiative. I've spoken to you about that before in some of my quarterly updates, so I'm not going to go into that too much. I mentioned a number of our student athlete leaders just participated in a workshop led by a trainer from Positive Coaching Alliance on how to compete with empathy. And it was so fascinating. It was really, really cool seeing our kids sit there and listen and try and figure out how can I have high standards for myself and my teammates, but also make sure that they know I care about them and that I'm listening to them and that I'm validating them rather than just trying to solve their problems for them, but to be a listener, to be empathetic. It was really powerful. And speaking of people coming in on days off, we had 10 coaches here last Saturday going through a workshop with Positive Coaching Alliance. For many of them, fall coaches, it was their first weekend off since July, and they were here trying to get better at their craft for our kids. We talk about positive peer relationships. I mentioned our mental performance training, something we're still working on getting this off the ground, to be perfectly honest. The second bullet point there, Panther Nation Nights. That's where our student athletes as a team, like an organized team activity, go to one of the other sports senior nights as a show of unity and to support that particular sport. That really is in its nascent stages. It's not where I want it to be, but it is an area of focus for this year. And then potentially down the road, the expansion of our student athlete leadership team to include members of our various clubs and activities in the fine arts as well. Ms. Cacciatore and I have had initial conversations about that. We're just trying to figure out the best way to build it. Bless you. You're very welcome. Oh, it's Dan? I really mean it now. Just a few more slides here, and then I'll take any questions that you have. Some of the things that we're doing, again, I mentioned accountability. I mentioned it's winning when we are exposing them to opportunities to fail. Failure is a part of success, right? Being vulnerable, putting yourself out there, working hard, and then not getting what you want and having to say, okay, now what? That has been one of the key areas of focus during our peak mental performance training these last 3 months, is focusing on what do I do when it doesn't go my way? Because it's real easy to be a leader. It's real easy to be a good teammate. It's real easy to work hard when things are going well. But it's a disservice to our kids if we don't also prepare them for how to respond when things aren't going well. We have a saying that I wish I had included in the presentation, E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. We very rarely have control of the events that happen to us or around us. We 100% have control over how we respond to them, and more often than not, that helps at least partially determine the outcome. And that outcome might be self-reflection. What do I have to do to grow from this setback so that the next time I'm faced with this challenge, I'm going to come out on top? We've got forgive me, I got up on a soapbox there and got all passionate and totally went away from the slide. You can see some of the systems that we have in place to promote those things, things that we're doing to make sure what we're doing is working. And that's regular data analysis twice per season. That can take the form of a certain number of reports that we're in the process of working with IT to get those created, but also coaching surveys, evaluations, both mid-season and post-season of our coaches, of our student athletes' experiences, and that goal achievement process that I mentioned earlier, setting the intention, figuring out the behaviors necessary to achieve it, scheduling and measuring said behaviors, and then evaluating it, reflecting on it, adjusting as necessary. So you can see that there. So again, just measuring success, our key performance metrics and tracking growth. We are going to look at program numbers. We are going to look at athlete retention, but also behavior and attendance data for our athletes, academic performance data for our athletes, student experience surveys, like I mentioned, and also, wins and losses and competitive growth. That is important. I'll stand up here and say it in a public forum. I think I'm the most competitive person in this room, and I want to win, and I want to put trophies in cases, and I want to put plaques on the wall. And I want that for our kids. I want that for our community. Those things and this culture education are not mutually exclusive. In fact, the one leads to the other. If we do things the right way every day and we stack winning days on top of winning days, we're going to win lots of games too. Like Bill Walsh said, we have to act like champions before we'll become champions. So how do we track that growth? Mid-season, end-of-season data analysis, both by team, but also for the entire athletic department. We do goal setting as a part of our head coach evaluation process, both for their personal professional growth, the growth of their staff, but also tangible process-focused goals for their programs. And the goal achievement process that I mentioned earlier. So to sort of recap our mission, why we are here, we're here to give our kids the district mission statement. We're here to inspire and empower them to create a thriving future through athletics. We're going to do that through the strategies that I just mentioned. And as a result, I believe we're going to build an elite high school athletic program. And when I say elite, I mean our kids are going to leave better equipped to be successful. Our kids are going to leave with a better idea of what their passion is for the rest of their lives. Our kids are going to realize that at least part of that is due to their participation in our programs. But we're also, this stuff where they are constantly scheduling us for their homecoming or their senior night because Round Lake's an easy win, that's going to stop. It's going to stop. 10 years from now, people are going to forget how they see us right now. And it's because of the things that we're putting in place. And with your support, I 1,000% believe that's going to happen. Now I'm getting, sorry, when I care, I get a little worked up. Let's take a water break here. I want to come back to this last piece because I think at the end of the day, this is maybe the most powerful bit of it. This MVP framework where the kids, right, define what the core values look like and then create a list of associated behaviors. That's the powerful part because they can articulate their why then. And they know, am I living the mission and vision today or am I not? It's going to allow them to be much more self-reflective. It's going to allow them to be much more self-reliant. It's going to make them better leaders. It's going to make them better teammates. So I wanted to make sure I took a moment to revisit that real quickly. Our next steps, as I mentioned, working with the IT department to develop reports for analyzing and measuring student-athlete success metrics. Continue to work with the MVP committee and SALT team leaders to hone and finalize what our MVP framework is going to look like, including a mission statement and vision, mission and vision statement for the athletic department that aligns with and supports the district mission statement. Work with the communications department to create and share promotional materials for that MVP framework. Once that is complete, we need to share it. We need to get it out there. We need to brand it. We need to make sure everybody knows who we are, why we do things the way we do, and how we're going to get from where we are to where we want to be. And then continue with the success pathway goal setting and evaluation process with regular check-ins. As I mentioned, twice a season, middle of the season, end of each season, fall, winter, and spring. Questions?
Questions from the board?
All right, I guess just me again.
I have a couple comments, but I'll wait to the end.
Oh, go ahead, please.
No, I would say, I've been here 13 years, 12. We've never had a presentation like this, not at the board table. For the first time that I've seen, there's a comprehensive, thoughtful plan based on best practice in the field. I've had conversations with Ethan. I mean, he's no different with our athletic department than, say, Lisa Steffen is with our teaching and learning department. I look over at the team. We've got Dan as our human resource expert. So, I mean, I love sports, but I'm not a sports expert. I'm not a subject matter expert, and I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not going to profess to know how to build an athletic program. And I feel like for the first time during my time here, we have somebody who can see the forest through the trees. He can see things from the 50,000 foot level. He's very organized with his thinking, very targeted with his approach. And it goes without saying, he actually he does care. I mean, it's very clear to me, and I know we all think everybody does, but I'm not sure everybody does at the level that we would want them to. And so I think for the first time, this is the first time I've ever seen a comprehensive presentation about athletic philosophy, how it fits together, how it connects to our instructional program, how it supports the strategic plan. I mean, we can go on, and I love the fact that you're doing it on what best practice in the field. So you have my support as the superintendent. We're lucky to have you, and I mean, it's a lot of information to digest. I'm sure the board, maybe the next time you do a presentation, they'll be able to process, but it's a lot. But I appreciate all the work you're doing as the leader of the department.
And thank you. It's definitely a team effort. I don't want to give the impression that this is all me. Nothing could be further from the truth. And that's not how you want to do something like this. If you're going to build it to last, everybody's got to be in.
True, but you are the leader.
Well,
and leadership matters. So
thank you.
That's the bottom line. So,
Annette, what questions can I answer?
Before I do get to my questions, I will echo, the sentiments that Dr. Mendoza, being an alumni of this school and having gone through a little different era than Mr. Peterson, because I will admit I'm a little older than him. There was this culture here before. What we talked about, character development and student engagement, that I have seen kind of fall off over the years and decades. So I think this is a great presentation, and I think this will help us get to that next level. So I really appreciate the time and effort in you bringing this forward, and I really am excited for our student athletes. So I really just have one question when I look at your next steps as you continue to develop this framework. What is your timeline?
That's a good question. The hope is to have the MVP framework completed by the end of first semester and spend second semester really getting it out there to everybody, really spreading the word, making sure that everybody is eating, breathing, sleeping it.
I think this is great. I'm really excited. I haven't seen the kind of passion and the conversation that you're having about our student athletes, because I agree, what we're teaching them will definitely transpire into the real world, into whatever profession as a person that will carry on with them. So I think this is great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would agree. Just excellent job. Yeah, keep it up.
I also agree, and thank you for the presentation and how thorough it is. And I really appreciate your enthusiasm and your passion for growing our program and our teams, but also growing our athletes, not only in their athletic skill, but growing them as good humans.
Yeah, every blessing in my life comes from my experiences as a high school and collegiate athlete, and I want to make sure that I can share that with as many of our kids as I possibly can. So I told Dr. Mendoza 3 years ago when he brought me here that this isn't a profession for me, it's a calling, and I mean that in my bones. So I look forward to continuing to work with you guys and making this all a reality.
Just a quick clarification on the timeline. So are we talking a 25, 26 rollout? So the rolling it out in the first semester of 25, 26, and then implementing during second semester, because the first semester is kind of already done for this year, so.
Well, we got a couple of months left here in first semester. I'm talking this year, yeah.
Okay, that was the clarification I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect.
So now the thing is, like, our processes and are, in order to do this right, it'll be a living, breathing thing that we'll have to constantly review, and at some point we'll have to do goal adjustments as we achieve further goals. But yeah, no, my hope is to have the definitions of our core values, the behaviors that illustrate being above the line and below the line, and then the mission and vision statement that are derived from that by January. And then I to say timelines, some of that with the next steps, you'd be asking me to speak for Sarah LeBlanc's department or to speak for Dan Kozik's department. I don't want to do that because, again, as I said, this is going to take all of us, right? So in terms of the promotional blitz and the development of the ad hoc reports or whatever tool we end up using to create those deep data dives for our athletes to measure whether or not the things that we're doing are working, that I can't speak to that tonight.
Perfect. No, thank you. And in fairness, I was confusing quarter and semester, so we're good.
No worries.
In closing comment, it's a broader comment, but I think you saw the cell phone presentation. For the first time in a long time, we have our team, we have like-minded leaders in this high school, and that is even filtered into the department chair positions. I don't want to promise anything and over-promise and under-deliver, but I feel really good about where this high school is headed academically, athletically, culturally, and you can see the arrows are all pointed in the same direction. That's really a credit to Principal Peterson and his leadership and the type of people he's bringing in and the expectations that he set. So we're very, very fortunate. Frank, I see him in the background, and I could keep going with the other people on the team, but it's a really good team. They all work together. So.
Hearing no additional, thank you very much for the well-detailed and laid out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, next up on the agenda is reviewing contracts less than 1,000. Any questions from the board to the administration on that? We had one out there for Indian Hill. Hearing none, then the next is review of the FOIA report. Any questions from the board in regards to the FOIA request that was presented to us? All right, hearing none there. We will now move to public comment, and as always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note the speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Electronic public comments are accepted up until noon on the day of the regularly scheduled board meeting, and the public commenter will be contacted to confirm identity, and once confirmed, the electronic public comment will be provided to all board members in written form. A link to the electronic public comment form is found online. We did have electronic public comment. It was distributed to the board. Note that the public commenter will be being addressed by the administration in a timely manner in regards to that, and we will be getting some follow-up in regards to that as well. Locally, do we have any public comment? All right. Hearing none there, we will then move on to superintendent's report, and that would be Dr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Board President Francisco. It is my pleasure to give the superintendent's report this evening. Below is a list of recently received donations. We are notifying the board in compliance with board policy. A thank you letter will be sent from the district to each donor. 18 pumpkins donated to the first grade class, donated first grade Ellis student Nora Hawley to the Ellis students. Nora grew pumpkins at her grandmother's house, tended to them throughout the process, and then raffled them to Ellis students. That's so awesome. Non-perishable food items, Fill a Heart for Kids, donated to Beach in Indian Hill. On October 17th, math and trade students, that's a course we offer, had the exciting opportunity to attend the Lake County Building and Construction Trades Exploration. Students connected their course learning with explicit, high-skill, high-wage careers across a diverse collection of trades industries. Students completed a School Links pre-lesson determining which trades may be aligned with their skills and interests. Remember, School Links is something you supported as a school board. They then utilized the plan to guide them through the discussions and hands-on learning activities at each trades booth. Our college and career readiness programming continues to support our Thrive goal through connecting students with meaningful post-secondary opportunities that support high-skill wage careers that build upon student skills, interests, and goals. Students reported during discussions that they found the event extremely valuable, and the team is excited to create next steps. On October 22nd, the Round Lake High School Honors Community Civics class, in collaboration with the Lake County League of Women Voters, hosted a candidate forum for the candidates competing in the Lake County Board District 2 race. Students engaged closely with the league to receive training on forum operations, including moderation techniques and managing rule violations. They formulated the questions and executed the form entirely. Attendees included students from the government courses who participated as audience. The students received numerous compliments for their insightful questions and their overall execution of the forum. And last but certainly not least, we are pleased to share that on behalf of the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center, the Round Lake High School English 2 course team has been awarded an Opportunity Scholarship. This generous support will cover transportation and admission for our students and chaperones during their upcoming field trip in December. This experience will allow our students to deepen their understanding of the Holocaust and the broader issues of genocide throughout the world. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions for Dr. Mendoza? Hearing none. We will now move to the communications update, the community engagement update.
Hello, yes, we got to meet earlier this evening. If you guys get a chance to look at the agenda, the first discussion item was the Class Dojo presentation, which I will not revisit because they did an amazing job at that. The next one that was on the agenda was the social media account transfer process. We had some questions about that. There was an issue that arose with some of our social media platforms and our access to it. So if you guys get a chance to look over, they put in the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, in the packet. So we sort of discussed kind of having a main document that has the main passwords owned by Sarah and the digital media specialist. And then we talked about SOPs and how they access them, just kind of making sure they're a living, breathing document. And then they're currently looking into a system on how to house the SOPs, standard operating procedures. So again, they're referred to in kind of a one general area. Anything you want to add on that? Okay. The next thing that we went over was the volunteer screening process update. Last month we had discussed this and there was a want to kind of fold in the boosters, parents, etc. We discussed, we have a list that we receive because of parent-teacher conferences that allows us that basically notifies us if a parent is on a registry of any sort or has any like drug offenses, things like that, that would limit their access to the school. They receive this list 3 or 4 times a year from the sheriff's office. So they were saying that they would be able to kind of run parents through that and then non-parents through the Raptor systems. We talked about if that would be sufficient in protecting the kids. They are creating some SOPs for that process as well, standard operating procedures. But we discussed the standard operating procedures being very granular, very specific. There was some concerns raised regarding possible gaps in the timeframes for the checks and the possible opportunities for other issues to arise regarding this because it's only 3 to 4 times per year. So this is going to be kind of an ongoing conversation, I believe, that we're kind of working on currently. The committee there's just some concerns that we're still working on at the moment regarding it, but it's been addressed and kind of discussed, and so it's kind of going to be coming back to you later again. Anything that you want to add on that? Anything that you want to add, Heather? Yeah, so at the moment, that's still a process that we're working out. And then the next thing that was on the agenda was the monthly snapshot. If you guys get a chance, look at that. They have some new metrics and kind of it's laid out differently, and it's really easy to read and really nice. I'm seeing a lot of growth in the engagement online, which is super cool, and I credit you guys for that. So there were a couple ones that we noticed went down. Those have been addressed and discussed in the community engagement committee meeting. So we think you'll see even further progression in that. So yeah, any questions anybody has? Anything anybody wants to add? Okay, and that was community engagement.
Hearing no additional questions, thank you very much. And we will move to approval of some open meeting minutes.
I need a motion to approve the October 21st, 2024 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Larson, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the October 23rd, 2024 special board meeting expulsion hearing minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Larson, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yeah, abstain, excuse me. My apologies.
Motion carries. All right, and that will bring us to new business. And first up on that is an FTE clerk at the EEC, Dr. Apgar.
So since 2014, the EEC has grown from an enrollment of 200 students to 425 students this year. That growth is the product of the Preschool for All grant, the Preschool for All expansion grant, and then it's also an increase in the space, as you all saw at the ribbon cutting. So this request is for an additional clerk for the EEC. Over that time, the students have increased, the staff has increased to 65 students, but we've maintained this same level of main office support that has been there the entire time. So we're requesting a clerk for the EEC, and expenditures will be budgeted to district funds.
Any questions?
Just add that this was at finance at the last meeting, and finance posed normal questions as to, again, it's after. So I think those questions were addressed, but the finance committee supports.
All right, I think we have a motion.
Nope, not yet, but I'll read it. I need a motion to approve the addition of 1.0 FTE clerk to provide main office support at the Early Education Center in the amount of $66,380.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Ms. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next one up is a resolution for personnel inventory, and that would be Dr. Mendoza, it looks like.
Yep, so this isn't new. So just as a gentle reminder to the board, I shared this with you enclosed. We were talking about individual people. So essentially what triggered this is based on my, if you remember what we talked about is whenever we have an administrator leave, we use it as an opportunity to assess departmental functioning. And basically I made the decision that we needed to make a couple changes. The summary of changes include more boots on the ground. So decreasing an administrator, hiring 2 more specialists, changing roles and responsibilities of 1 specialist, and then taking 2 coordinators and making them directors. That is a very quick summary of the changes. And we think this will improve operational efficiency. We have a lot going on in this district, and the one thing that I would say is our technology, and this isn't unique to Round Lake, but technology has every single department pulling at them. Transportation, teaching and learning, food service, they have to support everybody else. And while there is some cross-departmental dependencies, you don't really have transportation relying on like teaching and learning for anything. You just don't. It just doesn't happen. So in the end, I think 80%, 70% of the tech requests that are made are from the teaching and learning department. And it should be like that because teaching and learning should be driving the train of the school district because that's where we provide instruction to kids. And this change, in my opinion, will help us communicate better cross-departmentally. It'll improve efficiency, especially with the recommended changes here. So again, I'm actually asking for approval on the same night you're seeing it, but we talked through this before. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I need a motion to approve the decrease in personal inventory of 1.0 FTE manager, projects and tech support, 1.0 FTE lead support specialist, 1.0 FTE coordinator of teaching and learning, 1.0 FTE coordinator of educational technology. And an increase in the following: an increase in personal inventory of 1.0 FTE technology leader, TNL, 1.0 FTE integration specialist tech, 1.0 FTE system specialist, 1.0 FTE director of teaching and learning, and 1.0 FTE director of teaching and technology and innovation, TNL.
So moved.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Hearing no additional questions, roll call please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee? Yes. Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to our semester 2 overnight and trips over 200 miles. That would be Mrs. Cacciatore and Dr. King.
Hello, we are here to share with you the 2 proposed overnight trips for second semester for this year. The first one is for the Illinois Music Educator Conference in 2025. This is for Panther Voices to go. They auditioned and were chosen to perform and participate in a workshop, or sorry, not participate, but present a workshop as a group with their teacher at the IMEC convention this year for 2025. And the second trip is for the Round Lake High School Winter Guard to go to the WGI competition in Flint, Michigan. It's technically Grand Blanc, but the title is Flint, Michigan. I always like to make that clarification. So these are the 2 trips that we are proposing for second semester for your review and discussion.
Any questions from the board?
I just want to make sure that the people that are doing that are run through the Raptor system each time. Pardon? Each time though, right? Like okay.
And right now for the Winter Guard, they all do have to be fingerprinted and background checked for WGI. So for any of them to participate with our students in WGI, they do have to be background checked and fingerprinted. And then IMEC right now, it's just the teacher is the chaperone. So yes.
they're certified staff who would be the chaperones right now. So yes. And we will
Alright.
bring this for, at the next meeting for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. That would take us to consent agenda.
I have a question on the consent agenda before I read the motion. On the employment report, I thought under resignation, the one name was being removed. Did I misunderstand that?
I thought I had updated that.
Yeah, but yeah, and to the point, it's not.
Can we make the motion with an amendment to remove that name?
Just one. All right. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the following items. The accounts payable report for $556,982.42. An amended November 4th, 2024 employment report with the redaction of the name of Jennifer Etherington, special education teaching assistant at Indian Hill.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that brings us to introduction of administrators, but I don't have any names as to who's coming up, so.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm here to introduce to you Kevin Consler, who is being promoted into Director of Teaching or Director of Technology and Innovation. He is a part of the restructure that Dr. Mendoza was speaking about. Kevin has been in education for 17 years. He began his journey as a special education teacher, and we stole him away, and he's been with us for the last 2 years. And Dr. Mendoza tapped him on the shoulder for this to facilitate and lead part of this new direction that we're headed in, and where Kevin is very equipped and excited from his last few years of experience. He has 3 beautiful kids at home and a wife who support him. His wife is while she's in the realty section, she also dabbles in technology, so I'm sure that their dinner time is very interesting to at least their family, maybe a little bit boring for the rest of us, as they talk about a lot of tech things. But excited to introduce Kevin for Director of Technology and Innovation.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to the board and to Dr. Mendoza. I'm thrilled to lead the technology support team along with the other teams that I'm currently leading and sort of building a bridge between the technology department, teaching and learning, and supporting our staff and our students. So couldn't be more excited. Again, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no kidding. Left hand shake, one leg.
All right. I'm here this evening to introduce Sarah Fontana, as she's being given the opportunity for a promotion to Director of Teaching and Learning, and will be supporting our Literacy and Wellness Department, and also supporting inventorying, because Sarah is by far the best at inventory that I've ever seen. Sarah has been with us here in Round Lake for 17 years in various different positions, started with us as an English teacher in our high school English department, and then moved into different roles within the high school as an instructional coach for a year, and then as a division chair, and then moved to the district office as a coordinator in the literacy department.
We're really excited to have Sarah move into the director position. It's also important to note that you should remember the name Luca Fontana. That is her son, and he will be on Broadway someday. You'd be excited to hear me say that, but her stories are great. He really dives into drama, and they're fun stories to hear. Even Liz has provided some costume work for him. So excited for Sarah, and congratulations.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to continue my journey here. The last 17 years have been excellent. I love it. The staff, the students, and families really provide a rewarding experience and an environment to work in. And I look forward to the continued growth and communication and just collaboration happening among everybody within the Round Lake team. Thank you.
Congratulations to both of you.
All right, next up, we've got the old business, which is the second reading and now the adoption of the board policies. Again, does the board have any questions or second follow-ups in regards to the new adoptions? Hearing none?
All right, I need a motion to approve the school board policies as listed within the memo.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to positive occurrences.
I just want to highlight senior night. It was awesome and emotional and beautiful, and it was well done.
Last, oh my gosh, Monday. It's all been a blur with all the injuries. We had the opportunity to tour the high school and the EEC with some local realtors, and I thought that was a great experience for everybody. And then we had the ribbon cutting at the EEC, and got to tour the building and hear about the Birth to Five program. And the building is beautiful. I was very impressed. As my kids went to the EEC when it was kindergarten, and the changes that the building has gone through is tremendous. And it was great to see.
Yep. I was just going to say the same things. Senior night went really well. It was well organized and well attended. And of course, the ribbon cutting. It's nice to see another project almost completed.
And then the realtor tour as well that you touched on with that. I know I forwarded that to Mrs. Bennett, that we've already gotten some additional follow-up from realtors looking to do more with that. So definitely looking forward to that engagement. And the calendar is full as always. We've got the fall play coming up, which is going to be absolutely awesome. The tail end of this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So definitely looking forward to a lot of good things coming up and going forward. All right, hearing no additional conversation when it comes to that. Next up is future agenda items. Anybody have anything they would like to have added to the agendas for future meetings? All right, hearing nothing there. Next up, we're going to do an approval of closed session minutes reviewed at prior meetings.
Need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of October 7th, 2024 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Larson, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of October 8th, 2024, special board meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Abstain.
Motion carries. And that will bring me to, I need a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by statute 5 ILCS 120/2 for the purpose of discussing the following: employment matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C1, real estate matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C5, and closed meeting minutes, 5 ILCS 120/2C21.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Motion carries. That will take us to closed session. For those online, we will be coming back out of closed and we will have public action afterwards. So we will be coming back into open meeting afterwards. But for those here, we'll be going into closed session for the time being. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening, and we'll talk with you soon. All right, we are back in open session and we have action resulting from closed session.
I need a motion to approve the resolution authorizing issuance of a notice of remedial warning.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right. I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of October 21st, 2024 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Tavera. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of October 23rd, 2024 special board meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Abstain.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to a conclusion. We are adjourned at 9:50 p.m. Thank you, everyone online. And our next regular board meeting will be on Monday, November 18th at 7 p.m. See you then.